Let's talk about social media today and what it might mean for your business. This is a little bit of a different podcast episode. Hey, if you're a first-time listener, my name is Blake Benz. I'm the host of the Good Advice Podcast, and you've come to the right place to learn how to do business better. I don't know why I started saying that as if it was like a jingle or something, but hey, welcome. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in today. If you're a first-time listener and you enjoy the episode, don't forget to follow the podcast. We publish 2 to 3 times a week, and you can find us on any podcast platform. We also have a Patreon where you can support the podcast, patreon.com/goodadvice for as little as $5 a month, as well as, here we go, incredible businesses that sponsor the podcast. One coming up here shortly. If you run a business and you want to promote your business on the show, you can always reach out, blake@goodadvicecoaching.com. Let's get into it today, but first, here's a word from one of our sponsors. There's one single piece of advice that I give to business owners who are ready to scale their business drastically. And that's knowing exactly what you need to hand off so that you can continue focusing on what you're an expert in. It amazes me when I talk to business owners who are doing their own bookkeeping and tax prep, and worse, that they're going through all this paperwork at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, even midnight, slaving away trying to make sense of all of the numbers for their business. Business owners who are making it happen have already figured out that you can't do it all yourself. That's why I recommend Steve Lay with Equity Business Solutions. Not only is he an expert in bookkeeping and tax prep, but what I love about Steve is that he'll sit down with you and help you make sense of the value of your business beyond just reading a spreadsheet. You'll be able to make better decisions, and more importantly, you're going to save yourself the crucial time you would have spent going through QuickBooks or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is that keeps us up late at night. So save yourself some time and some money by giving Steve Lay a call at Equity Business Solutions, and he'll show you the value beyond your numbers. Go to equitybusinesssolutionsllc.com to find out more. Everything's burning. Everything's burning and everything is on fire. And man, this is an interesting world we're living in right now. And if I was trying to think about what I wanted to call today's podcast episode. On one hand, I was thinking what I just said, basically, everything's burning, oh God, oh God. Probably wouldn't do super well on the algorithm. And then I thought about, you could also say, another title I was thinking of was Don't Panic, which I think is always good advice. And then I started thinking also, occasionally people will send me headlines or they'll forward me a news story and they'll say, hey, what do you think about this? Or did you see this? And a lot of times I have seen, random headlines and things of that nature. Something I talked about on a podcast episode, maybe a couple months ago, was that I pretty actively disengaged from politics because I had a realization that, a lot of this is just engagement bait. A lot of what you read online is designed to. This isn't like a conspiracy theory. Many major news organizations are businesses, and they are incentivized, literally, not only news organizations but social media platforms, to keep you engaged, to keep you scrolling, to keep you watching. And there was a time even when I was dilly-dallying in the world of Facebook ads, this would have been years ago, spent a lot of money on Facebook ads. And back in the day, when you used Facebook ads, you could target, and nowadays you can't do this anymore. They've completely redone the whole thing, likely because there was this was all like pre Mark Zuckerberg having to testify before Congress. Pre-leaks around, their involvement in politics and their impact on kids and all these different things that really, threw them into the limelight. Pre-drama days, back when the only drama we had was, oh gosh, what was the movie? The Social Network. Great movie, by the way. That was really the only drama we had, was that, yeah, we like our Facebook, but Mark Zuckerberg's probably not like the greatest dude. This was our robot era of Mark Zuckerberg and not the AI generated, super cool Mark Zuckerberg, which I got a shout out to a really funny LinkedIn comment that it was like some LinkedIn post that was talking about how cool Mark Zuckerberg is now. And someone commented and was like, I think the way the post was written was like, he's so cool. Like anyone would love to hang out with him. And then like one of the top comments was like, I'm pretty sure I still would not want to hang out with Mark Zuckerberg, which, I don't know why it tickled me so much, but I digress. This is really not a rip on Mark Zuckerberg podcast episode. Like him, love him, hate him. I'm pretty indifferent to him. All that to say, that was the setting of back in the day when I was using Facebook ads. It would shock you, or maybe it wouldn't shock you, the level of detail that was available for what I could target in terms of when it came to like who I was targeting with my ads. Religion, religious affiliation, even like denominations, income brackets, zip codes, political leanings, political, like more hardline affiliations. I mean, it was crazy how much detail there was in this. And like I said, they started to get in hot water and a little bit more attention, and all of that changed. I haven't used Facebook Ads Manager in probably five years now, so I couldn't tell you what it's like today. But I remember the version I used was much different from the original version you could use. And so saying that, I bring that up because, it's really true that if you aren't paying attention yet, if you aren't realizing this yet, these are billion and trillion dollar companies. And if you like your Chat GPT, you like getting on Chat GPT, giving a little query, a little question, asking it a little thing, this little cute little, check out what my, check out what my AI generated, this cute little photo of a cat. It's so nice. This is so fun. If you think the free or like $20 a month AI tool is generating something cool, imagine what corporations with billions and trillions of dollars are capable of doing. Just the pure computational, algorithmic, all of the incredible things that are happening. It's far beyond. It's kind of like, you hear rumors about like Area 51 and like the crazy kinds of equipment they might have and the technology, like the warfare. I mean, even like today, like you see like drones dropping bombs in other countries and you think like, geez, that's incredible. But then you wonder like, what do we not know about? What's been developed that we're not sure of or not aware of. I think the same thing's true for how many of these tech companies operate, which, I said not to be a conspiracy. I absolutely just sounded like a conspiracy theorist, but point being, these are just, groundbreaking technology facing companies, and they are absolutely capable of keeping you engaged and plugged in to the negative news cycle. I've been reading a lot on just different people's comments, and I'm in a weird stage of my life where I have my kids, and we don't post our kids online anywhere. That's just a decision that Joy and I made, and sometimes it's inconvenient. We were at visiting in-laws, and we were at their church, and someone snapped a photo of my kids, and looked like someone who worked for the church, and I said, hey, and it's one of those things where like I can just tell it's like, I don't want to make a big deal about this, but there's like potential for it to be a big deal. And so I said, hey, is that for the church's social media? And she's like, yeah, it is. And I said, hey, would you mind deleting that? We don't put our kids on social media. And she was very polite about it. She was like, yeah, of course. And, I felt kind of embarrassed about it. I'm sure my wife felt embarrassed about it, but I was very polite about it. Had another church event. So churches and their social media. I was like, come on, guys. We had another event where I was with my daughter and was giving her a hug, and I was actually leaning down and looking her in the eyes and was saying something to her, and somebody snapped a photo of that and they put it on Instagram, and then somebody texted me and say, "Hey, I saw this photo. That's a great photo." And I was kind of like, "Oh man, I didn't know that was even being taken or getting put on social media." And so we're in this weird stage of life where, it's important to us for our kids not to be on social media. Joy doesn't use social media. And then I have a friend of mine who she just told some of her friends that she was leaving social media. It's a weird time of life because I can't think of a time that there was more potentially catastrophic news out there. Regardless of how you vote, not a day goes by that there is some headline involving Donald Trump. Not a day goes by that there is some headline involving Elon Musk or the state of the USA economy or our relationship with other countries or tariffs. Are tariffs on? Tariffs are off. Now they're back on again. Now they're off again. Now they're being raised. Now they're being lowered. Like, this is like primetime television where it's like what's going to happen next, except it lasts all day and it lasts forever. I bring this up because I don't want to ask anyone listening to get off social media. I think social media is a great tool. LinkedIn's been great for my business. Social media has been good for my business. I will say I don't think you need it to run a successful business. I think that a lot of people over embellish what they think is effective social media marketing for their brand. I think that the majority of businesses, of small local businesses, that the engine of revenue for those businesses is largely tied by who you're networking with and who you know and who you're talking to, and doing good business with local customers who tell other customers about you. And even if you run a digital brand, by the way, that concept is still true. I have a friend of mine who runs a web design business. He doesn't have a website. He's not on social. I don't think he's ever posted on social media, but he did a great job with one company. That company referred him to someone else. Then that company asked if they could white label his services, and it just grew from there. This isn't to say that social media can't help your business. I think it can. Like I said, for me, it has. It's been a great avenue to grow the podcast. But I do think we overindulge in the power of social media. Now, people listening who are social media marketers, you probably want to reach through the speaker and what's wrong with you? Hire a good social media company, by the way. There's a few locally that I really like. Hire a good social media company. Don't hire a company that you're going to pay $1,000 to that's going to just post stock photos of your business with a little AI generated blurb. Come on. It's not going to go anywhere for you. Hire a good company. But regardless of all that, I told this story maybe a few episodes ago. I was talking to a guy who was starting his business, brand new business. And I said, well, hey, how are you? He gave me a call. We're on the phone and he was asking for some advice. And I said, well, hey, what's your plan for getting customers? What are you going to do? And he said, well, I made a social media profile, and I think he said he made a Facebook account. But he said, I made a social media profile and I'm going to start posting on there. And I said, okay, that's fine. But that's a long play. What are you doing to get customers now? What are you doing to get, a customer in front of you that you can call tomorrow? And he was like, oh, wow, I don't know. And it was kind of like this funny unspoken thing around social media was my plan. You're telling me that's not going to work? And, this is not really too surprising, I think, a concept. We see the same thing in like podcasting and a number of other things that people commit themselves to. They do something, they expect it to work immediately, it doesn't, and they quit or they try something else or they move on to the next shiny object. Worst case scenario, they spend lots of money on these different things thinking that they can force their business to work when it really doesn't work that way. That's why people quit after their third podcast episode, or they say, I'm going all in on social media, and they quit after a week. Or if you are a social media marketer, you probably have that customer where, the customer signs a 6-month or an annual contract with you, and then they want like daily updates or they want weekly updates. What a nightmare. What a nightmare. So, these are really the worst kinds of customers because they don't understand how running a business works, how building a brand works. And so, yes, social media can work. Yes, social media is awesome. But I'm talking about this today because every week, I have my Tuesday morning growth group. This is our event for local business owners to come and just talk shop. It's not a sales event. I don't sell anything. I don't promote anything. I don't promote any program there, anything of that sort. It's just something I like to do. That's honestly just it. I don't think I've ever made a sale, actually, now that I think about it. I've done this for 6 years. I don't think I've ever made a sale at this event, which I don't know. Maybe that means I'm a bad business person. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm too puristic around this thing, but integrity has always been important to me, and I kind of set out for it to be like an honest, open thing and not anything else. And maybe I've swung too far in that direction. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't think I've ever sold anything at this event. I mean, I know I've never sold in this event. I don't think I've ever made a sale after talking to someone at this event. Though I can think of one business I worked with where the first time I met the person was at Growth Group, and then she wanted to get together and we met for coffee, and then that then led to us doing business together. So I guess in a way I have made some deals through it. Anywho, but I do get a lot of people who come to these events who, they talk at the event, they talk about the state of the economy. We talk a lot about sales, and people talk about, people who are hesitant to buy and just difficult circumstances. And man, I really try to be as encouraging as possible. And it's been a long time since I've really talked to someone at one of these events where I've been like, dude, you're doomed. And that sounds probably overly harsh, but I have on occasion talked with someone who, we look at their business plan, we look at how they're planning to approach, their service or product or what have you. And I'm like, dude, this does not make sense. Like you're heading for a train wreck. One example of this would be I had a guy I sat down with for lunch, and his business plan, and I don't fully remember it. I think it was like maybe it was like construction or something. But his plan, like an integral part of his plan was he could, whenever he got called, I guess this was like commercial construction or something. His plan was whenever he got called that he would do like same day or 24-hour requests, like we'll get to the job site ASAP. And the way he would source his workers was he would pay his people the same day that they worked. Which, if you're new to business, this this isn't how business works, by the way, because your customers typically do not pay you ASAP. Many customers pay, 2 weeks after or net 30 or what have you. I'm in a very fortunate position where most of my customers pay me in advance. And then I have occasional customers. This is like, SEO, like marketing or podcast advertising customers. Those customers, maybe I'll send off an invoice and, they'll pay it like in the next 2 weeks or something to that effect. So it's rare that someone will just pay you ASAP. Well, so I pointed this out, and he was like, well, I feel like if I offer to pay people the same day they work, it's going to attract really good workers. And then the customers will be happy because look, the job will get done better. And that'll lead to more business. And I was like, well, you're always going to face this issue though, of basically having to catch up on cash flow, like paying your customers and then waiting for you to get paid. And then and also here's another surprise for some of you newer business owners. Sometimes your customers just don't pay you, or they pay you late, or they say, hey, I'm having cash flow problems. It's going to have to be, I mean, I had a customer who I sent an invoice off to. I think it was to be paid like January 31st or something. That got paid at the end of February. And it was a customer I knew for a long time. It wasn't a big deal, but the customer was like, hey, I'm just having a hard time. I'm having a hard time with cash flow. And I said, yep, I get it. No big deal. So sometimes even like well-meaning, good customers have difficult seasons and they can't always pay you on time. So when you have a business that operates with paying the same day to your employees, but yet you yourself don't get paid immediately, that's a problem. And sure enough, this company did not make it long term. So occasionally there are some really catastrophic business designs that aren't doing you any favors. But for the most part, I find myself talking to business owners who are frankly scared, worried. What's going to happen to my business? What's the economy going to do to my brand? Is this it? Is it all over? And I'll be totally transparent with you. I think 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, I remember going through COVID, and I'm going to choose my words carefully here because like a million people died. So I don't want to be too casual about this. But I certainly back during COVID had an optimism as someone, and I think I did quite a bit of business immediately once COVID happened. So I think that probably helped. But compared to today, with 2 kids, 5 years old and 3 years old, and one on the way, I don't know if it's like a different stage of life. It's probably also because my wife works significantly less today than she did back then, 5 years ago. She essentially doesn't really work much at all in terms of the job that she had. So there's a bigger burden of financial responsibility on me. But for whatever reason, I have felt anxious, anxious about my kids' future and my ability to provide for them. And what does this mean for them? Fortunately, I haven't lost any big deals. I mean, I had actually a couple of big deals last year that were massive that I lost, including a couple other. I actually had, now that I think about it, now that I'm talking about it, last year, I think I had more lost deals last year than any other year with Good Advice. Now, it's a bit of a misleading stat in that I was in way more sales conversations last year than any other year. I think it was in 2023, made a deliberate shift in my business to make sales a really active part of the business, which was a good thing. But there was definitely like this moment, I think it was maybe summer of last year or like early fall. I lost like a really big deal, and then I lost another big deal right after that. And then there were like maybe 5 or 6 deals, like small deals, like a couple $1,000s that all fell through. And I remember thinking like around like typically you lose a deal, you have a slam dunk. And I remember thinking like, man, I'm due soon for the next one, and then that deal was lost. So I've definitely had these seasons with Good Advice where I'm like, man, nothing's pinging, no deals are closing. Or definitely the pacing of closing deals isn't like it normally is. Now, this is also like, I think, how we're biased. I mean, if I think about it holistically, January, February, and March of this year were absolutely massive for Good Advice. Probably the 3 biggest months ever in the history of the company, which feels good. And, rather than me kind of like meandering and rambling, I guess, about financial data, here I am. It's April. It's April 9th today. And I feel anxious. I feel anxious for my kids. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel that way. But I've been thinking a lot about it, kind of reflecting on it. And I think I've read one too many headlines. I think I've let myself indulge a little bit more than I normally. I'm usually pretty deliberate about not indulging. And I think I've gotten into one too many headlines. So I'm reminding myself today that news cycles are designed to engage you, that there's always a worse news headline coming because you got to top the news from the previous day. You got to keep people engaged. And the example I gave in another podcast episode was, the country's on fire, and then, a news company puts up a headline that, hey, this meteor is likely to hit us in the next 2 weeks, or it could hit us in the next 2 weeks. And you're like, okay, that's icing on the cake. Like, come on, really? And there's a freaking meteor that's going to hit us. That's really the state of the news today in social media platforms. I find myself on social media with people who, like, clearly for them, it is a very important hobby to them because they have their dissertation on what's happening and all the data around it and all the important facts and all these different things. And while I recognize that that is important for some people, it is not important for me. So my encouragement today to myself and also to you, if you're finding yourself anxious, worried, in doubt, maybe a little less time on social media, a little less time on the news, and remembering that life does go on, that tomorrow is a new day. And more importantly, I'll give you the advice that someone gave me. I put up a joke, a little meme on social media the other day that was basically, this is me as a millennial going through my 4th once-in-a-lifetime recession. And I had like a meme of Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, giving like an awkward face at the Oscars. And that's kind of how I feel. Like, oh, here we go again. And Erin Krotz, who's a realtor, she commented, she said, we keep grinding. We got this. And I don't know, that hit me in a good way. I read that and I thought, yeah, we got this. We got this. So I'm going to pass that on to you today. Could be totally unrelated to the state of the country, politics, tariffs or no tariffs, whatever it is. You got this. You got this. You have what it takes. You got this. And you can be successful. Here's the little bit of advice I'll pair with that. Think about how much of your time is spent connecting with new customers. How much of your time is spent connecting with new customers? Ask yourself how much of your time is spent on connecting with current customers and ensuring that you're delivering on what you said you would do. And then third, asking them how they can direct you to new buyers, to new customers. The sooner that you make sales a key part, not just sales, but meeting new people, a key part of your brand, the faster you will get to a place of consistency and consistent revenue, where as the world turns, your business survives another day. Keep doing good work. The piece of advice someone gave to me was, all we got to do is show up every day. Actually, the real quote that she gave was, she said, hey, we just got to show up and God's going to do the rest. Whether you're religious or not. I really like that. This concept of you got to just put both feet forward. Show up. Just show up. And remember that you can do it. All right. A little bit of a different podcast episode today. I appreciate you listening. Again, if you're a first-time listener, don't forget to subscribe or follow the podcast. Otherwise, hey, I appreciate you. That's today's good advice. We'll see you later.